Chairperson for the Indian Women Network of Kolkata of West Bengal. She's also the managing partner of Factway Law. She's a lawyer by profession, and she has extensive professional experience in corporate, real estate, infrastructure, government, and policy practice. She's on the board of Himadri Specialty Chemicals Limited, Himadri Credit and Finance Limited, and other various boards as well. She is the chairperson of the CII Indian Women Network West Bengal chapter, and she is also a key CII member in the CII Eastern Region Council, the CII Maharashtra State Council, and she also heads the policy panel of the West Bengal State Council, of which she is a very senior member. We would also like to welcome Yanjini Joshi. Yanjini is the Vice Chairperson of the Indian Women Network of West Bengal, and she is the Director of the George Telegraph Group. She's the Treasurer of Befrienders India, a pan-India organization on mental health counseling and a network of suicide prevention. She is also a very key member of the CII Health Subcommittee, Education Subcommittee, and an honorary secretary 2021-22 of the Rotary Club of Calcutta. So after this introduction of my office bearers, I would hand it over to Sucharita, my chairperson, to take it over from here. Sucharita, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anuradha. And namaskar and a very good evening to all of you. It is really my pleasure and privilege to be able to host this absolutely blockbuster session by CII Indian Women Network West Bengal. At the outset, I would like to thank the Leadership Task Force for spearheading this, and special thanks to two of my great friends and IWN members, Priya Banerjee and Smita Chatterjee, both very powerful, successful women. And respectively, they also represent the two themes of today's session, corporate leadership and entrepreneurship themselves as well. So this conceptualization and materialization of today's session, it displays the strength of teamwork and our common passion for advocating the agenda of propelling women towards leadership. Now, of course, as the chairperson, I want to say a few words about Indian Women Network, which was launched in the year 2013 with an outlook to become the largest and the most effective network for aspiring aspiring and accomplished career women to promote women participation, growth, and leadership in the workspace. The thought behind the formation of IWN was that working women, they need a structured platform to meet and interact with like-minded women, to discuss available opportunities, to overcome challenges and hurdles, and broaden their horizon by learning from each other's experience. IWN works towards enabling women to become better professionals and achievers in their respective fields through their initiatives and activities to facilitate supportive network, a platform to learn, to exchange ideas, and of course, an avenue to network and grow. So West Bengal chapter was formed in 2018, and our agendas, they include promoting leadership, mentoring, capacity building, health and wellness, including emotional health. And we've had a very active year in 2021, and we look forward to a really robust and successful 21-22. So we have started with a vaccination drive, a doctor consultation launch from our member doctors, and a really resounding technical session on planning succession. So today's session is, as Anuradha said, it is our flagship session, and it is the second season of the same. The theme and the concept of this session, it absolutely dovetails with and it reflects the core agenda of IWN of motivating and celebrating leadership and entrepreneurship. The drive to succeed and the accompanying fear of failure, they have held back some of the greatest creators and the change agents in history. Concerned with conforming to norms, maintaining stability, and being conventional, women especially have been reluctant to pursue their ambitions for many decades. And even now, maybe some of us in this room, we are really lucky that we could, but there are many as we speak who are still conforming to conventions and keeping their ambitions and dreams behind. And instead of charging full steam ahead with assurance, they have been many times consciously and also unconsciously, they have been convinced or even coerced to not be dreamers, to settle for safer professions where they can keep priority for their family first. So while they possess qualities of being natural leaders, women, historically, the door to many careers have been closed to them. So as a result, men, they simply obviously produce more output than women, but with greater equal opportunity today, these gender differences in output, they are gradually disappearing and soon may even reverse. So the power which has been displayed by the women of India in the Olympics 2021, it's itself a testimony of the physical strength and the emotional resilience that we can nurture to shatter myths, to break barriers, challenge circumstances, and of course, emerge as winners. So I was reading a book named Originals by Adam Grant, and the essence of it is that it is necessary many times, to be non-conformists, to embrace uncertainty, to ignore social approval, and just simply not worry about the cost of non-conformity. Only then we can be iconoclasts, we can be rebels, we can be revolutionaries. So I would like to dedicate today's session to the non-conformists. Many of us are, to the originals who have rebelled against set norms and stereotypes, who have challenged the normal. We have traversed rocky roads to become leaders, who have been troublemakers, mavericks, contrarians, and absolutely impervious to fear, to rejection, and ridicule. So we have rocked the boat and we have ridden the waves, and hence we have adventure tales to tell. And hence, which is why today we have with us today trailblazers and achievers, and each one has a story behind their respective success. It is on us, each one of us, to actually ensure that we hear and we are also heard, so that every girl gets inspired to break the barrier and make a mark. We need to figuratively and sometimes even literally lift each other up. So in that spirit, I wish today's session inspires many. And over to Priya and Dr. Beg to comments the same. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shasharita. Thank you so much. So now it will be over to our moderators for the leadership conclave. I would like to introduce Priya Banerjee, who is the Associate Director of PwC. She is part of the Global Office of General Counsel with overall huge experience as an Associate Director in PwC. She has prior experience in the risk and legal compliance in PwC India Advisory, and she has handled risk and compliance issues for listed private, banking and financial and PSU clients. During her tenure in Pricewaterhouse, she has been playing multiple roles within the organization, and she has gained niche expertise in the areas of technology and innovation, in multiple areas of technology transformation, business models, client commercial contracting, etc. She has been an active ethics and legal trainer, and she's passionate about diversity and inclusion aspects in her firm. So welcome, Priya. And she's also a key person in the IWN West Bengal chapter, a powerhouse woman. And I would also like to extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Sarfaraz Beg, who is a laparoscopic and bariatric surgeon. As Dr. Beg says, he's the pigeon among the cats. Yeah. So a very warm welcome to you. He was one of the first surgeons to bring bariatric and AWR services in West Bengal. He was awarded the Fellowship of Royal College of Surgeons in 2020, and he has served the state healthcare from 2000 to 2006 in the capacity of assistant professor in the Department of General and Gastrointestinal Surgery. He was also the first surgeon to run a multi-center data collaboration in India on bariatric surgery outcomes, and he has published the same. So over to you, Priya and Dr. Beg, for this session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anuradha, and thank you, Sucharita, for that lovely, inspiring introduction. I'm already inspired before the session. A very good afternoon to everybody, to all of the audiences joined it and the speakers, and good morning, good afternoon to also one of the speaker who's joined us early morning from Michigan, and also one is from Switzerland. Could you go to the next slide, please, Anuradha? So without much ado, I'd like to present our esteemed panelists. To start with Sativati Bharara. I don't think she needs much introduction, but nevertheless, she's the Chief Operating Officer of PwC India. She's been the first woman in a Big Four in the country to hold this position. She has over 35 years of experience and currently a member of PwC's India's leadership team. She has started her career as an article trainee and went on to become an audit partner in 1995. Before she became the COO in 2016, she's played key leadership roles at the firm across various positions. In her current role as the COO, in addition to managing the firm's operations, she's also driving the firm's transformation agenda. She's closely associated with a not-profit organization devoted to the education of young children from marginalized communities. Now, moving on to the next slide, we have Ursula Petrosi. She has about 20 years of experience as a technology lawyer. She's managing director in the Global Office of General Counsel at PwC. Currently, she's leading two distinct teams that negotiate and advise the PwC network on technology and strategy-related matters. Prior to joining PwC in 2018, she's worked at Sears Holding Corporation and served on the board of directors of Sears Mexico for over 6 years, and was the chief legal officer for Sears India and Sears Technology Captive. She describes leadership style as rooted in open and direct dialogue that is always respectful and kind. Cheers to that, Ursula, I vouch for that. Outside of her work, Ursula is interested in serving her community for those less privileged. Next is a very dear friend of mine, Kalindi Mehta. She is the Chief of Staff to APJ President SAP. She's also had 20 plus years of experience in diverse sectors like manufacturing, FMCG, investment banking, also worked for organizations like Lehman Brothers, Credit Suisse, and Genpact. Prior to her present role, she served as the General Counsel and Corporate Secretary for SAP and its acquired entities in India. And how I miss you leaving that role, Kalindi. And she's worked on broad spectrum. If you can just go back, please. Thank you. On complex legal, commercial aspects, data privacy governance, general advisory and strategy for all lines of businesses. Thank you. The next is Getanjali Chaturvedhi. She leads the Gender Accelerators for the World Economic Forum and is based in Geneva. She is joining us from Switzerland today. She has a PhD in political science from JNU, New Delhi. She has worked with several UN agencies, including UNICEF, on the Global Polio Eradication Initiative in India, Nigeria, and Afghanistan, has worked extensively on gender, behavior change, and social development with the World Bank in South Asia. She authored the Vital Drop Polio Communication in India. She's never adhered to a formula for success and believes that true learning comes from allowing yourself to go wrong. Absolutely, Getanjali. But if you follow your heart, you always do the right thing. Bang on. Last but not the least, another powerhouse, Reika Modi Gomes. She's the global head of risk operations, D&I lead for global operations, HSBC. She was, prior to this, she was the chief controller officer for HSBC Wealth and Personal Banking. She has about 30 years of experience prior to joining HSBC, and she's held a number of senior management roles within the Citi Group. She's worked across various geographies, including India, Sweden, UK, and now Hong Kong. She leads the operations diversity and inclusion agenda, championing to build a diverse and even more inclusive organization, leading on a number of initiatives across LGBT+, disability, gender, ethnicity, and a wellness. And being an avid traveler, I can see she's a fitness enthusiast, loves trekking, cycling. Reika and her husband have two grown-up children, and they love to spend time walking the golden retriever. Moving on to some housekeeping items, I'm sure everybody is aware of that, but just to reinforce for the benefit of all the audience, if they can please keep themselves mute. And add a humble request if you can keep the video on, but I'll appreciate if there's a bandwidth issue. It's always good to interact with the videos on. Without much ado, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Baig. Also, I'd like to add this is a recorded session and it is going to be on FB Live as well. So in case you have missed it or your friends and family have missed it, they can always watch it later. Dr. Baig, kindly over to you to open the session and set the context for this particular power pact and let the Maverick start the session without much ado. Over to you.
Thank you, Priya, and thank you, everyone. Well, I must say that it's an honor for me to be present, not as a pigeon among the cats, but as the one in very esteemed panelist out here. I feel a little overwhelmed, but I'll try not to be nervous. When Priya asked me to do this, I really got excited because I thought I knew everything about women. Obviously, when you research about them, you find that you are so wrong. So I looked up at certain surveys, and the one survey that really attracted and caught my attention was a survey from Harvard University by Robin Elley, a very famous economist. We showed that there was no difference in the aspirations, the career aspirations in men and women when they, come out as trainees. However, more women land up being disappointed in the way their career shapes up compared to men. And this is especially when it comes to senior rank positions. So this is a very bold kind of an outcome from this research analysis, which is highly powered. And it seems that something seems to be going wrong for women when it comes to senior posts. There are many notions and perceptions which I picked up from various psychological studies as well as popular misconceptions about women, why their career advancement is impeded. There were about five major things that I picked up. Employers think and organizations think that women take more breaks. Women are seen as a task force who would quit for family commitments and child rearing. Women were seen as poor negotiators. Women take less risks in business. And their final myth was women are less liable to focus on a single job because of their multitasking ability. Now, I just put it as it is out there. But you know what? I dig deeper into this. I just wanted to look into, is there any meat in these perceptions? And what I found was when I dug deeper, many of these notions have actually been debunked by several studies. It's just out there for everybody's attention. There was a meta-analysis by James Byrne and a very strong study by Peggy Dwyer, which suggested there is no gender difference in the risk-taking ability between men and women. A Norwegian study by Julian Lalloyaw found that there was no difference either in multitasking ability. Now, I could just go on, but what I'm trying to say is when it comes to career advancement, there are certain misperceptions which probably impede the growth of women progressing. So, what is the real problem? Is it this bias or a perception issue? I will not delve deeper into this. I think I've set the stage. I will go straight to the extremely talented and highly accomplished panelists here who are in the top positions in their own field and ask them, what do you think is the main reason behind this gender inequality, especially in the senior job positions? And here I would like to request my colleague Priya to ask this question in the order that she would want to.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Beg. So to start with, it is Satya ma'am, Sativati Bharara. And just to set the context, all of the five speakers will be given 3 minutes to speak on this. To start with, over to you, ma'am, Satya ma'am.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for your kind introduction, and thank you, CII, for having me here today. Hello, everyone. Well, if I look back, it has been a long march for women over the last few decades from when I started my career and where we are today. And undoubtedly, the needle has moved, but I think there's still lots to be done. Most organizations today have a very forward-looking, diversity policies. But despite that, if you look at the bridge, from an inequality perspective, I think the gap is still there at the senior management level. If you look at corporates today, I mean, again, it varies from sector to sector. I think at the entry level, you have about 30 to 40% people who join are women. But very soon, when they reach the middle management, despite all the wonderful policies and forward-looking policies we have, the number just goes down. And then later, when we replace them, it's always men coming because it's not easy to find women. And then as you move up, the number becomes in single digits, and we all know that's what's happening. What is the reason for that? I think it's a very complex problem, and I guess the reasons would vary from person to person, from sector to sector, organization to organization. But in my experience, 2-3 reasons which stand out, and which is what I've seen in my experience over these years. And let me, talk about those. Number one, I think it's really, the problem starts at the middle management, where we are not able to give equal opportunity to women middle management managers. And what I mean by that is that there is inequality in terms of their deployment, the experience that they're gaining, the complexity of the job that they do, the challenges that they face with. And what it does is that, it kind of prevents them from building the capability and confidence, which actually, helps them to aspire to move up. So somewhere I think because of what happens at the middle management level, that aspiration is also missing, or that confidence is missing, that I will be able to move up and do well over there. The second issue, according to me, and I think at least I think this is important, is the fact that there is lack of sponsorship for women at that senior level. And I guess this is not, an unknown problem. You have less women at the top, so there are less role models, and because of which somehow that cascades into the sponsorship issue also. On the other hand, when you see men, there are enough people to sponsor. They have informal network, which I think just helps them to develop further and kind of navigate the entire journey and sort of move on to the senior management. But according to me, the third reason, and which I think is actually quite a significant reason, is the whole organization culture. And I think organization culture plays a very pivotal role in determining the success of women in the workforce. And, depending on the tone at the top, one can see whether there is an intent and urgency to do something. And one has also seen, and I'm sure there's enough data where the culture, the DNA, the ecosystem is sort of good enough, open, transparent. It actually helps, and it kind of helps in nurturing women, and it helps them to grow. I mean, when I started my career almost 3 decades back, there was, no one even spoke about DNI. I don't think that vocabulary existed. I mean, there were no DNI policies or anything. But still, I think, some of us made it. I think it was primarily because of the culture in the organization, the leadership, the support, the whole ecosystem, which kind of helped us to get that confidence, gave us equal opportunity, and kind of made us, gave us that drive and passion to really move ahead. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to request Ursula Petrosi to speak next.
Sure. Thanks, Priya. And again, thank you for including me and inviting me into this discussion. Obviously, my perspective is going to be very different because I don't live in India, and I'm not, sort of working through the cultural implications of that. I did want to start with telling you a little bit about myself. I was born in Lima, Peru. I am a Latina, native Spanish speaker. My parents moved to the United States for our education. I'm one of 6. I am a product of a single-sex education from the age of 5, so all-girls environment. I was taught that I had a voice and to always use it in a respectful manner. We were encouraged as young children to embrace our culture. We did not assimilate to the American way. We were only allowed to speak Spanish in the house. And when we would pose a question to my mother in English, she would say to us, "I don't understand you, try again," which was super annoying as a teenager, but incredibly impactful. And I'm very grateful for that. So the question is, why am I sharing all of this personal information with all of you? The reason is I believe that you cannot talk about gender without talking about one's perspective, experience, and one's culture. everything is perspectival, and gender is not an exception. I wanted to tell you a story with the remaining time I have. So as probably is the case for most of you, I have had amazing male and female bosses, those that have impacted my life both positively and negatively. I decided to quit my law firm job the day I delivered my second child, April 15th, 2004. Sometime in early June, I was strolling the neighborhood with my newborn, and a neighbor said to me, "Are you looking for a new job?" I responded that I wasn't in a hurry. I was enjoying my time with the newborn, some time off, some time to reflect about what I wanted to do next. And I said, "Well, why do you ask?" And he said, "Well, I just started a job at the legal department at Kmart Corporation, which used to be a mass retailer in the US, kind of, I believe, like your Reliant is for India. And that the compensation was surprisingly good. He encouraged me to give him my resume and that he would take care of the rest." The following week, I walked into an interview with the general counsel, Harold, and a woman, Alice, who I found out I would be reporting to. The interview went very well. Everybody hit it off, and he offered me the job on the spot. And he said, quote, "When can you start? We are in desperate need as we are short-staffed." Before I could answer, he yawned and then quickly apologized. And he said, "My wife and I are not sleeping much due to the fact that our newborn is keeping us up at night." I smiled at him and said, "I totally understand. I too have a newborn at home, and I did not want to start working until mid-August." The woman, Alice, interjected that she needed immediate help. There was a very long pause, which was followed by these words from Harold, the general counsel. "Spend time with your baby. That is the most important thing. Nothing else matters. We will get a contractor to cover until you are ready to join us." This was 2004. I had just met this man. He owed me nothing. The woman who I would be reporting to was not pleased with the arrangement. She could only see that she wouldn't get immediate relief from her workload. Why am I telling you this story? I guess I'm telling you this story so we think about gender and inequality in its totality. So was Harold a male operation of 2004, some forward-thinking man focused on gender inequality, and that this was his moment to push the needle forward? Probably not. He said what he said because he and I shared an experience. We connected on the newborns. We were both dealing with the same issues, and he understood me. Was I, in a way that I made my needs known, an uncommon occurrence? I don't think so. I was raised to be confident, to speak my voice from a very young age, but to be respectful in the way that I did that. In 2004, I did not understand how powerful that moment would be for me today. As that sort of launched my in-house career and has led me to all sorts of leadership positions and experiences. The question that was posed today was, what is the main reason behind gender inequality in senior job positions? I offer you my story, my perspective, not as an answer to the question. I don't know the answer, but more to highlight that sweeping statements about the why inequality exists are probably not most helpful. I would encourage the discussion to be focused on each situation, each interaction, having a specific set of facts that should be considered in their totality, always keeping at the forefront perspective, experience, and culture.
Thank you, Ursula, for sharing this journey with us, and we'll definitely come back to you on some of the notes that I have personally made. Over to you, Kalindi Mehta, to speak next.
So, Ursula, I think I'll take a little forward from your story. I'm born and brought up in India. I had little chance to work in countries outside. But I think if I have to talk about the Indian culture and why we believe that the gender inequality continues to persist, and I think it's not only in India, right? We see these discussion topics everywhere because it's literally omnipresent. But a lot of it is also dependent on how much you want to go back, right? There are choices, and I think the discussion is not about how many women exist in the corporate world. It's about how is the society able to offer equal opportunity provided a woman chooses to come and go to work. And I think it's a bigger thing, not only limited to the corporates and having the policy, but it's also about the mindset that you're cultivating in the society at large. Like do the men expect that women should always stay at home, nurture the family, nurture the children, do all the household stuff and take care of the family? So where do you see a woman's role? I think I've been very, very blessed to be taught right from my childhood to have a voice of your own, to be respectful, to be polite yet assertive. And I think I'm very, very fortunate to be married into a family. My husband is also a lawyer, and I'm mother of 2 boys, 8 and 10. And I think as a mother, I take it my responsibility to train my boys where when they grow up, they're able to, respect a woman, give those opportunities to, whosoever are the females in their lives at that point in time, and respect the overall societal, setup that they would create in the generation, to come. So that's my first point. Of course, it needs a lot of nurturing, right? I think Satyavati ma'am pointed out that, when she started, there was nothing like diversity. We do lack networking opportunities for women. Like, who's there to lean in for you? Who'll, stand up and give you those sponsorships, vouch for your, capabilities, and hoot for you to, push you forward in the entire leadership cycle. I think I've been fortunate to, have some of those male colleagues, have some of those fantastic female colleagues who have, leaned in, supported, guided, like, hand-holded me when I was going through my, childbearing phase of my life, where they said, look, you can take breaks, of course, but if you really want, then figure out a system where you can go back to work and have that support system. So that's my second point. And
can I request Abhijit Mandal to put yourself on mute, please?
The third point is that, the organization also, while there are policies in place, right? So there is an unconscious bias which prevails. Like, I think Mr. Baik said in his introduction that, women will not be able to take risks, women will not be able to do this. I think it's up to us to, step into the big boys club, find our seat on the table, remove these unconscious bias, not only for ourselves, but also, for fellow women colleagues around us. The organizations also will have to, at some point in time, look at how many women successors are there. Right? So when you do a succession planning, how many women are sitting as, you're in that bucket list to be elevated to the next leadership position. So I think these are some of the views that I have. I can go on for the next several minutes, but I'm so eager to hear the other fellow panelists as well.
Thank you, Kalindi. And like Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, women need to be on the table to make decision and be the decision makers, right?
Yes.
So the next, I'll request Getanjali Chaturvedhi to speak.
Thank you, and thank you for all those inspiring comments that came in earlier. Before I actually start make my point, I'd like to start with the preface of the women's movement in India has actually always historically been supported by men. And what we have seen over the years is that there has been collaboration, there has been partnership, and women have actually come so far in our country because of the strong partnership. And I can also see that in my own personal life, where I actually achieved what I wanted to achieve because I was not told that there were any boundaries or any limits to where I could go. I could go as far as I wanted, or I could just stay home and do nothing. In fact, so much so that when my husband asked my father for my hand in marriage, my father's only condition was that I should always have a career. And I should have a career, not a vocation, not a hobby, a proper career path. And that was honored. So with that, just to sort of address the question that we have, why don't we see women in leadership? I think the problem is actually twofold. And the first, of course, everybody has alluded to, it's the fact that we continue, despite the fact that we want to see women in the economic sphere, we want to see them perform, we want to see them earn money. I don't think we have actually taken away the ascribed gender role from them of raising homes, of looking after domestic duties. So that burden continues to actually be vastly on their shoulders. We've seen this in the pandemic, where actually women were disproportionately, they dropped out because there was an additional burden on them. They also had to homeschool. So I think that's one thing that has played out, and we've seen that. The second thing, I think, again, Kalindi mentioned it and Satya mentioned it, we're not really investing in a strong pipeline. So whereas you see women join the corporate sector, you see them getting into there are dropouts at marriage and at motherhood, and we're not being able to retain these women. And why are we not being able to retain that? That's probably because we just think that their ascribed gender role is way more important than also their career, and there's nothing to actually keep them going. And that pipeline basically gets leaky. So we have to actually find ways to fix that pipeline. It's very important to do that. The third thing that I really want to put on the table out there is this whole thing about seeing women in leadership is about sharing power. And we really have to look inside to think, who are we sharing power with? With men? Do they, and I think the mindset is that they will have to give up the power rather than share it. But sharing is only, and I think there's a little bit of insecurity that comes in, which is why we see that we don't see the sponsorship behind women. Women do perform better, but we don't see people really backing them up as much. And I think we really need to take a hard look at that. And finally, I always see this, we have to look at the problem holistically. Are we really seeing women in leadership in other spheres? Are we seeing enough representation in parliament? Are there enough policymakers out there who are actually legislating on women-friendly policies? And I think that too is missing in our country. We should have actually gone further ahead. Instead, we've actually regressed a little bit. So those are my introductory comments, and I'm really excited to hear what the others have to say.
Thank you, Getanjali, for that. And with that, I'll request Reika Modi Gomes to speak next.
Priya, thank you, and thanks CII for having me here. So let me just add, when at the workforce, when women enter the corporate world, it is fairly balanced, and that is what I see with my teams in India, Sri Lanka, China, Poland, Mexico, wherever I see that. However, it is not the same as the career progression. And few of the things I believe be the case. One is the idea of a broken rung is very prevalent. The biggest obstacle women face is often the first promotion to a manager level. That broken rung has a huge impact. Since men significantly outnumber the women at a manager level, there are far few to choose from when they promote to a senior manager. And this number decreases at every subsequent level. And women as a whole can never catch up. And the next one for me is lack of representation at the senior level. If you don't have too many women at the desk at the senior level, they cannot influence the culture of that organization. And lack of senior role models, and again mentioned by a few of you as well. I genuinely believe women need to, when you can see it, you can be it. And when you can't see seniors, you don't believe you can ever get there. And another one is women are encouraged to make compromises, go part-time, look at an inward-facing role. All of that derails their career. And the real culprit, which I genuinely believe is very relevant for us in India, is the cultural constraint where highly educated women still bear the primary responsibility of family and home. I lived in Sweden. It is an egalitarian society, and it's hardly a surprise why Sweden or the Nordic countries rank so high on the equality index. And corporate policies in Sweden, if you had a child or you adopted a child, you could get 450 days of leave, and that could be shared with both the parents. And if I reflect upon myself and my career, 30 years I've been working, few things that stand out to me. First, I am really fortunate with a very supportive family. I have never tried to be a superwoman. I do not want to do everything myself. Those expectations have always been clearly discussed and aligned. I asked my son, do you want me to attend your football matches? And he would say, no, Ma, please don't. And I would say, thank you. And I never pretended to cook all the meals, and family were very thankful on that as well. But these were all discussed and agreed. And the next one is very earlier on, a manager told me, you need to manage your career. I had no clue what that meant. I made a few mistakes and finally found some mentors and sponsors who have guided me through my career. Till date, they guide me in this journey. And all I can say a little about myself, I come from a very traditional Marwari joint business family, but I was not even allowed to go to university. I had to hide at night when family went to sleep to study for MBA and gave my exam. I had to hide and give an interview. When I got a job, I couldn't even tell my parents. When they got to know, they wouldn't even allow me to go. So I could break a lot of barriers. And all I said was, the more someone tells me not to do, that is exactly what I would do. And I hope others don't have to go through such a difficult path, but I'm sure life is different now. This is 30 years back.
Thank you, Reika. And that's how you break the glass ceiling. Thank you for sharing that with us. And with that, we will go in with the first round of question and answers. We will also open it up to the audience after a while. And if you do have any questions, you could type in the chat room, and I will be moderating it and taking up the questions. And the first question, Dr. Beg, would you like to open that? And that question is for Kalindi Mehta and Reika Modi Gomes. And I would request both of them to speak for 1 minute each. Over to you, Dr. Beg.
Yeah, but thank you very much. Really, those were great insights. And frankly, I had some goosebumps while I was listening to you all. Your journeys have been fantastic, and it's so inspiring. So let's build this discussion a little further. While I was doing research, as I was before coming to this session, I found that things may get better in the future. In studies done on millennials, they found that the millennial males were more likely to participate in house chores and childcare. And as Getanjali put it, there have been dropouts for women during marriage, and then the second dropout is during childcare. It looks like that the millennial males will be more supportive of the career growth of their spouses and dividing the work there. So the question is that, do you think that the millennials can bring that change that is favorable and can reduce this gap in gender inequality? So over to you, Kalindi Mehta, and then Reika Gomes, I think. Right, Priya?
Yes.
Dr. Beg, I can't agree more with you. You are so right about it. And I think, the credit also goes to a generation before us. My mother was a working woman all her life, and I think I've seen how to, balance out everything. Like I mentioned, right? Maybe I'll take a little credit here that, it's women like us who train our kids and who would have trained the boys to make sure that, they are equal in sharing the household responsibilities. I was reading one article on LinkedIn. I don't know the person who wrote it, but he says, I don't help my wife. I do all the chores. And I do it because I also live here. So it's not that, she's responsible for doing the entire household stuff and I go out, do my job, come back, find the food on the table, and then do whatever I have to. He says, I'm an equal partner for everything that is to happen in, our household. And therefore, I do everything that she does. So there are times when I cook, there are times when she would cook, there are times when I do the dishes, there are times when she does it. So it's the whole, it changes the whole mindset, right? That men are not helping, but they are equally responsible in the game. And this is changing for sure. I see a lot of men stepping up right now, and I'm sure for the coming generations and for the Gen Zs and the millennials, they will have much better life than what we had in our previous generations.
Yeah.
Reika?
So
Agree with you, Kalindi. That's exactly my thinking as well. So with the millennials, there is certainly blurring of traditional roles than what we all have been used to. There's an attitude shift with this generation, and they are redefining the roles. The millennials, for them, there is nothing called a male or a female role in the society. They are refusing to accept restrictions based on gender or what they might or might not be allowed to do. And this is particularly so where they are seeing parents take on more equal responsibility. And I am sure many more have seen this now during the lockdown. And as a result, it will be great for a woman who will see a greater blending of work and rest of life responsibilities. I have 2 children. Both are millennials, a girl and a boy. Both defy traditional gender norms. Both are professional, both are working, both take care of all the household chores alike. They represent this generation, and with this generation, change is certainly on its way.
Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't agree with you more. And Kalindi as well. Change is the only constant in life, as they say, right? So my next question up is for Satya ma'am and also Getanjali Chaturvedhi. The lawyer in me had to come up with this kind of a question, but I would love to hear your views from both of you. So at present in India, the Companies Act, associated rules and SEBI regulations prescribe 1 woman director. To increase the number of women directors, this number can be revised to a proportion or a fraction of the board for certain specified entities. A holistic framework has been developed in the nation to encourage the representation of women in key positions at corporates. However, the latest figures given by the NSE, of course, suggest a stark contrast between the ideated measures and ground realities. What are your thoughts on compliance and coverage rates versus the ground reality? Over to you, Satya ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. I remember when this legislation was brought about, there was a lot of debate at that time also whether we should have this quota system and why we need a quota system. But the fact is that even after the legislation, the statistics, it has gone up. The needle has moved, but it's still as low as about 17-18%. In my view, I think, if we have to bring this change, there has to be an acknowledgement. I mean, legislation can do whatever little they can do. Firstly, there has to be an acknowledgement amongst the corporates, the board, that having, diversity on the board is good for the organization. I think that's the most important thing. If that acknowledgement is not there, and even when we look at this percentage of 17%, it is right now, I believe there are only about 30% out of this, which is really professional women joining the board. Many of it is, friends and family and, representation of promoters, etc. So I think coming back, if that acknowledgement is not there, I think we're not going to be able to change. But as far as this legislation is concerned, I personally think it was good because, when you have nothing, it's better to have something. And I think some of the European countries, the percentage is much higher. But look at the deterrent. I mean, 50,000 rupees. So I don't know what we're trying to do, and do we really want anything to change and anything to happen?
Thank you, ma'am. Getanjali, you.
Yeah, so I'll just give a sort of different perspective. I do agree with Satya completely. And I do agree that when you sort of mandate something like this with a deterrence that is hardly a deterrence, you're not very certain about what the levels of compliance will be. But having said that, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. First you have to fix the legal pipeline because you do want to see women along the line. You can't just bring them in on the top without actually having something at the mid management level and then progression. The second thing really is you have to look at women's issues and agenda holistically. You can't just say this is women's affairs, because we are people, right? So you have to fix the transport. You have to look at labor laws. You have to look at health. You have to look at education. You have to look at everything else that actually holds women back. And that is the second leaky pipeline, if you look at it from a life cycle approach, right? So just having one little thing that, or rather a piece of law that says that you have to have women at board levels, etc., is not enough if you're not fixing everything at one go. And that's my experience just looking at the gold standard countries, you know, in Scandinavia and in various other European countries. They started looking at it from that perspective several decades ago, which is why they've come so far. Yeah, so essentially that's my response to your question.
Yeah. Yeah, so Priya, I think I'll pose the third question. Is that okay?
Yes, please go ahead, Dr. Patel.
Yeah. So we can see here that all of the panelists who are here, they've achieved their top positions in the field that they've been doing. And, you know, many of you have been doing your family responsibilities and you've been managing two ends. And I think your partners have been doing a great job as well. And this is what has worked for you. And I don't know if I say it in general, but I would like to know, what is the advice that you would give for the working women who are aspiring to ascend the ladder of senior positions? What is that specific advice from your own experience that you would like to give them? What is the way forward? I do see that you, all of you, managed so many fronts together. And I also see that the spouses have been extremely supportive. So what is that you would want to give? You walk the talk. What's the advice you want to give to the working women?
Yes, and this question is for, again, Satya ma'am and Ursula Petrosi. So over to you, Satya ma'am.
Okay. So I guess I do get asked this question, and you know, my response is really probably based on my own experience. I think number one, what I feel, I think that personal aspiration has to be there. You have to have that drive and passion, because it's not easy, you know, moving up and then staying there. You have to have a lot of resilience. There are going to be bad days and good days, and you know, you have to have that strong belief in yourself and confidence that you're going to make it and you're going to be successful over there. I have always, you know, and this is what I absolutely believe in, that I have done this journey at my own terms. I've kept my own pace. And I've always sort of, you know, not gone and burnt myself. And it's been, you know, something that even today I can say that I enjoy coming back to the office every morning. So I think that's very important. Otherwise, you can get burnt out. There will be peer pressure, but you need to have your own, you know, benchmark, and, you know, you need to follow your journey. The second thing, and I think this is something which is not in our control, but I do believe this is very important, and we shouldn't, you know, undermine that. I think it's the organization that you work in and the supportive culture that the organization has, the entire ecosystem, the DNA. I think that is extremely important, because in a particular situation, no matter what you do and what you aspire, but if the organization is not supportive, I think you're not going to go too far. And third thing, according to me, and I've always believed in it, is you need to create a strong network for yourself. Both, you know, maybe an informal network in the office and a network at home. You need that support. You can't do it alone. And especially in India, I feel, you know, it is extremely important. You need your teams to be with you. You need whatever, is it, you know, parental, your in-laws, I mean, you can't do it alone. And I think you need to take everyone along if you want to go far. So that's been my experience.
Thank you, Satya ma'am. Ursula, your views?
Sure. For this one, I do have advice, unlike the first question I was asked to comment on. So, and I think others have mentioned this, I think it's really important that you choose an organization, a working environment that has good culture, that it tries to be attentive to issues like the gender equality, gender inclusion. Don't be so focused on the compensation and the benefits. That will come. Surround yourself with good people as coworkers, people that have integrity and know right from wrong. The third point I would say is, and this is hard, be brave, make your needs known. Don't be scared to voice your opinion. And then the last piece of advice that I would give is make the hard decisions. I left a law firm I had invested in for 5 years, literally the day I delivered my second child. I knew I couldn't change the culture there, and I didn't want to be partners with people I didn't share common ideologies with. So despite the time spent, I moved on looking for something that was a better fit for me, for my perspective, and what I expected out of my colleagues in a working environment. That takes a certain amount of risk and maturity to recognize that's important in the end game.
Yeah. Priya?
Thank you, Ursula, for that. Very, very helpful and insightful. I think we can pick up a question or two from the from the audience. I have one question coming in from a CII IWN member, Shoma Basu, and she's asking, most of you have acknowledged the leakage as we go up the value chain, and there are fewer women to consider for senior roles in the organization. What do you think is the need of the hour to reverse this trend and increase the pipeline of women talent? Getanjali, would you like to take this up?
With pleasure, and thank you for putting that question. So the important thing for everybody who's interested in a career really is when you join an organization, look and plan your career path. Plan that, have the conversations, as Ursula said, as Satya also advised, have conversations with people who've made it to the top. Form groups, unite as women, unite as professional women, as you're already doing through the CII network, and actually make yourself a force to be reckoned with. Work, put in the hours you need, establish very strong work ethics so that you're recognized and you're also you're rewarded accordingly. You have to make yourself seen, you have to make yourself heard, and you have to also stand for the right things, have a very strong moral spine, because that is how you get noticed and that's how you get recommended further. But just keep your eye on the goal, have a very definite career path, revise that, have good conversations with your superiors, and make sure that that's the path you want to tread. But as Ursula says, you can only move so much. If you realize the organization is not meeting your career goals, it's time to look for a change. So don't be afraid of making that shift. Be brave, believe in yourself. I always have, and don't ever compromise. Don't ever compromise.
Hang on. Thank you, Getanjali, for those inspiring words. The next question is from Smita Chatterjee to Satya ma'am. How would you recommend that a woman in leadership break the glass ceiling?
Well, Smita, I think many of us have sort of said various things, and probably some of that would contribute to, breaking the glass ceiling. But if I kind of, think about it and, is there a glass ceiling and there is a glass ceiling, etc. I think two buckets. There are certain things which are in your control and some things which are not in your control. In some organizations, you'll never be able to break the glass ceiling because I think it's not even worth being in that organization because, it's a different culture. They probably don't believe in women leadership, etc. But again, coming back to what is it that, we should be doing to kind of move up. And I mentioned earlier, I think to me, two things are very, very important. One, of course, is you need to have that aspiration. You need to be determined. You need to do everything to build that courage and confidence that you will be able to go up and you're better than, the next person. And, as I said, it's not going to be easy because you're in the minority. And even once you reach there, you're constantly, you have to prove yourself, because it's always easy, not so easy for women. I mean, they have to prove themselves extra than men. So I think that's one part of it. And the second is that, there is no substitute to hard work. You have to be very, very good in what you're doing. And I think you have to be better than, your male colleague, because that's the way it is, till we are in the minority. So whatever you need to do to remain relevant, going out of your comfort zone, doing different things, learning, relearning, I mean, just become indispensable and things will happen. So your contribution is going to be important, and be in an organization which can actually observe or can see your contribution. And that's why I say it's important to be in the right organization.
So I think it's time. It's like 1 hour session now, Priya, and it's our responsibility to wrap this up with at least some take-home messages. There have been so many, and if I had to pick a few, this is what I would probably say. First of all, I must say this has been a great session. It's been so insightful, and I hope there are people out there and listening to this, both men and women, and taking home messages. First of all, I think what I realize is that women are already talented. There's no way that you want them to be more talented. They're already talented. All it needs to be done is being recognized and to play the game. I think the game needs to be played. And that's what I learned from Ms. Satyavati's comments. That's what I got. And two is I realize that men have to play a part too. It's a game that women are going to play, but men have to play a part. And they have to be appreciative of what is happening and making sure that they are not the obstruction to a woman's career path. It does look like it at times, and therefore I think they need to be appreciative and cognizant of this. There is a quote from Wayne Dyer, and I love to say that every time I say it, I feel nice about it, and I'll say it again. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's not a clever play of words. It's more than that. And I think there's certain wisdom out here with this quote, which can help us in improving this situation. And of course, final point, legislation and all that are fine. But ultimately, I think it's a societal mindset. It's the corporate culture. And it's our human behavior that ultimately going to change so that this pendulum moves again towards equality. So with that, I'll hand it over to Priya for her concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baig. And first of all, thank you, Sucharita, for giving me this opportunity. And she knows I feel very strongly about having these conversations alive, keeping the momentum on. And a very big thank you to all of the esteemed panelists to have come here, to have spoken on their personal journeys and sharing those journeys with us. And I personally, my takeaway has been all what Dr. Baig said, and I am very, very inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And her quote is that my mother told me to be a lady. And for her, that meant be your own person, be independent. And for me personally, I think that was my father. And with that, I'd like to end the session. And with that thought, I'd like to hand it over to Anuradha.
Thanks a lot, Priya. And I would request Sriranjani Joshi, our Vice Chairperson, to, sort of formally wrap up this particular portion of the conclave. Sriranjani, over to you, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Anuradha. It was indeed a thought-provoking session.
I know. Yeah.
I will say it's beautiful. It was the way, like, we didn't even feel the 1 hour passing by. It was, all of us were too engrossed. The session where each speaker spoke from the heart and with a passion because of their experience, because of their various and even the moderators of the session, Dr. Sarfraz Baig and Priya Banerjee, played a fantastic role in bringing out the passion of the panelists towards the topic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being there. And thank you, Sativati Bharara, Petrosi, Kalindi Mehta, Getanjali Chaturvedhi and Reika Modi Gomes. We had a lot of takeaways. We heard about lack of sponsorship, less role models, lack of representation at senior level, difficulty of women to catch up, the leaky pipeline, and lots of this was, but I tell you, this was such a wonderful session, lot of takeaways as Dr. Beg said, and of course, networking. That's why Indian Women Network was formed, for the networking part and for this. And thank you all of you for being there today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Shiranjini. And we just sort of seamlessly move over to the next session, and which is the Entrepreneurship Conclave. So the conclave will be moderated by Smita Chatterjee. Smita is the group CEO, Centrax Technology and Textiles. She is a serial entrepreneur with 21 years of experience in various leadership roles. She has the distinction of being the first woman to spearhead the development and deployment of the sustainability and traceability platform for the tea industry. She's the founder of Centrax Technologies, an organization that is into development and maintenance of custom-developed cloud-based products and applications. She's also the founder and brand owner of Hatebona, Shoe Sam and Smith, and Affordable Gara. So Smita, a very warm welcome. And before I hand it over to you, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the other panelists for this particular session on entrepreneurship. So a very warm welcome to Pallavi Chatterjee, proprietor DMAX Entertainment. Pallavi is a renowned actor, writer, producer, entrepreneur, and social responsible citizen, and the list goes on. She has been born into one of the very widely acclaimed, film families of Bengal. She's a member of Executive Core Committee, Eastern India Motion Pictures Association, and the Joint Secretary of the West Bengal Motion Pictures Association Federation. Her production company, DMAX Entertainment, started out making films, television events, national and international, and they're now ventured into the OTT space with films and web series and music videos as well. Pallavi works tirelessly with the police, the business community, and the NGOs, in addition to the film industry where she belongs, to improve the lot of the French members of the society, including women and children. A very warm welcome, Pallavi. A very warm welcome to Ms. Smita Bharara, who is the Honorary Consul of Denmark in Kolkata. She is the founder and director of Essentially Health Private Limited. She's the founder and shareholder, Heritage Health Insurance TPA Private Limited, and director of Chorus Heritage Asia Pacific Private Limited. She's a successful entrepreneur, a renowned business person, a social worker, and equestrian enthusiast, and she is associated with various chambers of commerce. As the Honorary Consul of Denmark, she fulfills her role as a consular, diplomatic, and trade leader of the country she represents. She's a serial entrepreneur and in the past 18 years has built several organizations surrounding the healthcare and the insurance industries. She runs an art gallery by the name of Ganges, which showcases art from India and abroad. A very warm welcome, Ms. Bharara. And I would like to welcome Paromita. Paromita Coach is the Director, Candid Communications India and UK, and Candid School of Communication India and Global India. Paromita is the founder and director of Candid Communication, the leading PR agency in Eastern India. She's also the vice president of WICI, West Bengal Arts Council, which is the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She's a convener and a core member of the leadership committee of the CII IWN West Bengal chapter, and is an executive committee member of the skills committee of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Paromita is the founder, director of Candid School of Communication, the only structured industry-oriented PR and event management institute in Eastern India affiliated to the City and Guilds UK. Paromita, welcome and wishing you a very happy birthday as well.
Thank you so much, Anuradha. Thank you.
I would also like to welcome Reika, who is the founder of Capture Food Director, The Grid. She's one of the very young panelists to join us today. She's a renowned she has a photography studio and is also the food director of Grid, which has been awarded India's best microbrewery. In a short span of time, she has created a niche for herself and her brand when it comes to studio and wedding photography in and outside of Kolkata. Ritika is also the food director of The Grid. In the last 6 years, The Grid has been Kolkata's most awarded F&B outlet, and it has won various national and regional awards for its food and craft beer. So a very warm welcome to you, Ritika. I would also like to welcome Sunaina Bihani, who is the CEO of Pulse Diagnostics Private Limited. It is the Pulse Diagnostics is a Kolkata-based healthcare service center which began in 2001, thanks to the vision of Sunaina, who holds a diploma from the Institute Villa Pierrefeu, Switzerland. Her perseverance and patience have enabled Pulse to receive the prestigious NABL award. She also happens to be the co-director at Care Fertility Solutions Private Limited and is managing the center by looking into decisive verticals of administration, finance, marketing. So Sunaina, a very warm welcome to you, and over to you now, Smita, to take forward this session.
So thank you, Shucharita, thank you, Sriranjini and Anuradha. And a warm welcome to the august body of panelists, my fellow CII members and our esteemed guests. Now in this forum, we have a very interesting mix of seasoned to new entrepreneurs from diverse domains. And we would like to hear from them their success strategy in times of lockdown, in times of low economic growth. So without further ado, I would like to start with our star panelist, Miss Pallavi Chatterjee. Welcome, Pallavi. Is Pallavi there on board?
Let me just check. I don't see her. I'll just let me give her a call, Smita, and why don't you go ahead with others?
Yes. So moving on to my next panelist, it's Mrs. Smita Bajoria. Good evening, Smita. My namesake.
Hi, Smita. Hi. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Smita. So now this is a tough one for you. You are a seasoned and a serial entrepreneur. And now we have a new normal. So how did your organizations transition to the new normal?
I think you're implying during the COVID period of 1.5 to 2 years that has happened.
Yes.
The thing is that it's been a tough period for everyone, and work from home was a normal. But basically, being in the core healthcare sector and in the core TPA sector, which caters to healthcare and health insurance claims, we all had to do our job. We had to be present because the claims kept coming in, and we had to attend office and make sure that everything was attended to. So it did not leave so there was no way that we could say that we will not come to work. So it was work as usual. And because of the awareness of COVID, I think the people were trying to increase their insurance limits. So in a way, the awareness and the awareness of health insurance and the fact that the necessity of it and how important it is in the day-to-day living got even more sort of glaringly clear to people. So in a way, the business has gone up, but also we had to work harder. We had to make sure that the people got their claims through and other things in time. And this was a period also when we were building the new digital health tech startup, which I'll explain to you. And so we had, there were new areas which came up during the COVID, new ideas which were thrown open, and we included those ideas also in the new app. So it's been a mixed bag, but I would say that it's been a very positive period for us. Thank you.
Smita, transition actually was the key to survival, and you have successfully spearheaded your team. Thanks for the insight into the hows and whats. Now, what is the next new thing that we should look forward from Smita?
Thank you, Smita. The family and I've been engaged in the healthcare business for a very long time. We run one of the largest health insurance claim companies, which we service about 40 million policyholders, which has been in the group for the last 20 years. And as a natural corollary to that, I thought that there was a lot of gap in the healthcare sector. Like people could not find easily an ambulance. So we have launched a new app just a few days ago. The app is called SureRight, and it is basically it sort of is a combination of us offering all healthcare services under one app. It can be accessed through the phone, it can be accessed through the computer, and it has about 6 verticals. We have enabled 4 verticals as we speak. It's for people who want to find simple things like ambulance, how to find a home care testing kit, or it could be for somebody who's looking for a yoga teacher, or and other serious things. Like it has a vertical where doctors can be accessed online and offline. So you can, anybody can visit a doctor in the chamber, and then if they want to have online consultations as a follow-up, basically the app allows them through video monitoring and a video conversation to continue that consultation over the next few weeks and years. And the doctor, the appointment is made with the doctor automatically. So it's basically a queue system which sort of gets set in place. The other thing which we found was that people were not being able to find home care personnel after hospitalization, or for aged people, like physiotherapists or nurses or male nurses, or people to just come in on a GP and check on them. So we have a big panel of about 300 to 400 doctors from different areas of specialization. And these doctors and these caregivers can be accessed through the app. So if somebody wants a nurse or somebody after a surgery, they can access and make a booking and inquire, and they can arrange for a nurse. So that gives a lot of relief for people who have aged parents or are working and they need a caregiver to come to the house. The second thing we found was that a lot of people wanted an ambulance, but they didn't know where to call if they wanted to go to a particular hospital. So as a result, we have ambulatory services where we have all the ambulance operators congregated, and they are in one place. So if somebody is in a particular part of the city, they could call and ask for the ambulance which is nearest to their home. And they could be taken to a hospital of their choice, which may be near their home or outside their home. And similarly, we have home delivery of medicines and other things. And also we have the vertical where we have all the diagnostic tests and pathological tests. All the pathology labs within Calcutta have been sort of, we've put them under one app. So it's like a one-stop shop, really, one-stop shop for everything. And we'll be beginning 2 or 3 other verticals later on. So this is our latest offering. And because of the experience we have with the TPA, we feel that there is a great need for this today. There's a great requirement. People keep calling up informally as to find about doctors and hospitals. So this is the latest sort of offering that we have started.
This is a much needed solution, Smita, because SureRight, I mean, an app like SureRight is something what we need nowadays because of the current situation. We actually go around looking for, healthcare, to testing, to food. So this is good. Thanks to you and your team. Now moving on to Paramita Ghosh. Happy birthday, Paramita.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Smita.
Thank you, Smita, also.
Thanks. Now, Paramita, we have been talking about pandemic and COVID. I want to hear how you manage the pandemic, and can you throw some light on your strategy, or should I say re-strategy?
Sure. Good evening to all my co-panelists and to all the fiery women who have joined us on this chat today. It's an honor for me to represent women entrepreneurship on this panel, and thank you so much for inviting me, CII IWN. Honestly, the pandemic has been a learning experience for me as an entrepreneur and as a leader of a team of 28 people in the office. We really, really had to relook at a lot of things, because being in the business of promotions, the first thing that an organization would size down during such a situation would be promotions. So it was an essential situation for all of us to re-strategize and relook at our business. However, the way I have managed my business of PR and communication during this pandemic is by relooking at a few strategies for the company. Firstly, we created a contingency plan, which was looking at the existent resources and the needed necessary demand that we were facing at that point of time. We created a situation where half the team was working from home. So immediately, the first thing we were able to successfully do was to control the OPEX of the organization. The first thing that we did was control the OPEX. The moment the operative expenses for the company was controlled, we were in a situation to face the contingency a little better. 50% of the staff of my entire team worked from home throughout the pandemic situation. And right after that, we also had to relook at the business of physical events, because during the pandemic situation, as a responsible citizen and as a responsible entrepreneur, I could jeopardize neither my clients nor my team. So we had to relook at a situation where we digitized our event scenario so that I could keep my team safe as well as continue doing these events online and digitally. A lot of events, we created a new format called hybrid, where we were having half the events, in a digital format with some people being physically present as speakers or as analysts in them. So this is how we tapped into newer avenues and newer solutions for these problems so that we could relook at the business. In addition to that, there was one thing that I maintained, which was very essential for a small company like mine, is that we believed in ourselves and we did not do any layoffs. See, the moment a small company or a small team has layoffs, it actually affects the psychology of the entire team. And there's a bit of jeopardy and nervousness in the whole team, which works in that situation as a negativity. So we believed in ourselves, we worked very hard, and we refused to lay off our team members. However, with the solution of work from home, we could actually extract more work being done from the team, and they still felt safe staying at home and working through the pandemic situation. So one more thing that we have done very, very effectively is that we are also preparing for recovery. Because with a lot of organizations as of now, we might be noticing that workload is not at its fullest. The team tends to relax. The team tends to work at a certain pace. And then we forget about the recovery scenario, because we are neither staffed well, nor are we prepared to jump into the business when recovery happens. However, we have maintained that amongst ourselves. We have rethought of a recovery scenario, because every 3 months we are facing that cycle when there is a new wave and business is going up and coming down. So as a small team, we have re-energized ourselves to suit that way. We know which are the 3 months again that we will be affected due to the impending third wave, and we're already preparing for that. So these are, in a nutshell, the strategies that I've worked upon with my small team of people to face the pandemic.
See, these are, as an entrepreneur myself, these are extremely important insights that I got from Smita, from you, because managing the organization and working from home, it's a different ballgame altogether. Now, tell me something, Paramita. Economic growth has been severely hampered in the last 1 year. So how have you ensured a new area of business despite the slow economic growth?
Yes, absolutely valid question. I would like to draw your attention to some of the industries which we service in a big way, which have been very, very badly affected due to the pandemic. Firstly, hospitality. Second, events. So these are two of my core, client scenarios. So what happened to us during this situation is that nobody was having the faith to attend a physical event. So immediately we strategized and created online events with gusto. Trust me, last year, we had a lot of difficulty to explain to clients that online events can actually generate the desired mileage. The whole of last year, we had this counseling going on with our clients who are so used to physical events, who are so used to traveling for events, that we had to actually be really patient. A lot of clients didn't understand the impact that online events would create. But trust me, within a year's time, the story is completely different. Digital events has overtaken for us the other events that we ever did. It is a completely new division for us. This year, we have started hiring people who are specialized in digital. We have a completely new area of business where digital promotion is now marching forward as one of our biggest area of business. So what we have understood is that there are two ways of looking at a situation like this. Either we crumble under pressure, or we pull up our socks and work hard and relook at the existing resources and work on them. So for me, for my company, digital events and digitization of our marketing efforts is one of the steps that we have taken towards a new area of business and completely new revenue sector.
So something, these are very heartening stories, and it's, I'm very happy to note that our women entrepreneurs are on a growth trajectory despite all odds. Kudos to you, Paramita. Moving on to my next panelist.
Thank you so much, Smita.
Thanks, Paramita. Moving on to the youngest panelist today, Ritika. Ritika, maybe have your camera on.
Yeah. Hi, Smita.
Hi.
Yeah.
So good evening. And you're working in a very different domain. We've seen in the leadership panel, we saw esteemed panelists from the Big Four. We have lawyers. We have so many different domains over here. So food and photography, a unique combination. Now you have to tell us more about your entrepreneurial venture, because this is something, we don't normally come across. And we are also keen to know about the challenges you faced and how did you overcome those?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. I think my internet got a little unstable.
I'll just quickly summarize my question. Because of this unique combination of work that you have, food and photography, I would like to know about your entrepreneurial venture. And in fact, for our audience also, we are keen to know about the challenges you faced and how did you overcome those?
Okay. Thank you, Smita. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you, CII, for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences on this esteemed platform. So 2012 was my first venture as an entrepreneur. Initially, I just started with workshops from Hyderabad, photography workshops. And the main perks was to, get photo shoots done of my daughter. So the initial few years, I just conducted workshops. And once I was acquainted with the trade, I started my own studio. It was very challenging because 10 years back, professional photography was a very unconventional industry, predominantly dominated by men. And women really did not step out of their comfort zone to build such a market, such a venture. So at that time, I was one of the only studios in Calcutta to be run by a woman. So I was facing difficulties because of that too. And I had initial difficulties were even because I was not from a photography background. So keeping yourself a step ahead of trends was always a challenge. But thankfully, I overcome everything, and it was a successful venture, and I'm still happy with what I'm doing. So 2015 was when I ventured into the food and beverages industry with the Grid. So the Grid has so far been the most successful project that I have been part of. It's a national benchmark. And again, we had a lot of problems with the Grid initially, like not exactly problems. The odds were all against us because our location was different. The size and scale we were working with was different. The music we were proposing and the culture of a all-day high-energy restaurant bar, which is not a disco or a restaurant, was also first of its kind, and so was a microbrewery. So to turn the odds in our favor, we gave a lot of emphasis on micro-detailing. Though I was involved in all the aspects, I was mainly responsible for curating and engineering the food, which is the spine of any food and beverage venture. Again, I was entering into a new world. It was totally, I'm not a chef, I'm not trained in food. So I had to keep a lot of things in mind. First, that Calcutta is a place for food lovers, and we had to we had a legacy, we had to keep up it. We wanted to have something for everyone on our menu, a global cuisine with a farm to plate concept. So it took us 9 months of extensive training and trials to finally achieve what we aim for. So food and photography both are passion driven. You have to love what you do, then only you can achieve what you want to achieve. So even today, when I see somebody's photo shoot or I see people having fun in grid, it gives me a lot of pleasure. It gives me a sense of positivity. It makes you want to go ahead and work harder. And yeah, you keep having challenges. You have to continuously be innovative. It's a continuous process. It's not like you're set forever. You have to keep inspiring and inspiring your team to think out of the box. But consistency is the most important aspect of any business. And it is basically my responsibility to see that we achieve everything that we aim for. Thank you. Hello?
Rita, you are mute.
Yeah, I thought something was wrong with my connection.
So, Ritika, despite all the hardships, you created your own niche. That's really something. Now, we have been hearing about the adverse effect of the lockdown. Now, as a young entrepreneur, you changed the tide in your favor by realigning your strategy, and you develop newer opportunities. So could you throw some light on the roadmap? I mean, I want our participating entrepreneurs and our aspirants to understand how to build a roadmap and how to realign strategy. So tell us about yourself now.
So see, the pandemic has changed all our lives in ways we can't even begin to contemplate. It has taken our lives in the back foot, and we have all been suffering in a lot of ways. So during the last 1.5 years, lifestyle industry has been hit the most. Photography, food and beverages, they are both optional spend items. So they have been under government restrictions, and obviously people are not really wanting to spend on both the things. So during these times, me, my husband, along with our team, we diverted all our energies into a post-pandemic venture. With the confidence that social life will bounce back in a much bigger way, we have realigned and invested all our focus into a unique, one-of-its-kind luxury banqueting space for social and corporate events. I'm very happy to say we are all set to launch by this pujas. And again, one of the biggest challenge is that we have to nail the food. And it is my responsibility to see that the team delivers as per excellence. What we hope to achieve is a state-of-the-art space, beyond 5-star level service and exceptionally good food. And so we are working, and hopefully we will again achieve what we aim to. So in the end, I would just like to say that for me, the entire process from a wife to a mother to an entrepreneur to the food director of Grid and now our banquet, it has not been like I have been hearing everything about, the other panelists speak. So for me, it was not about being a man or a woman. It was this seamless complementing and understanding relationship between my husband and me, with whom I have been working for the past 7 years, which is equivalent to any two business partners in a thriving business. So this is basically the reason that we are good at what we do, because we complement each other and we work together in harmony.
Thanks, Ritika. I mean, it's so nice. We heard about Shaurite from Smita. We heard about how Paromita has expanded her business. We are hearing about a new banquet that you would be launching. So it's actually the pandemic or the lockdown has been more effective in helping us, ideate, come up with new ideas of growth, which is very inspirational. Moving now to Sunaina. Hi, Sunaina.
Hi, hello.
So, Sunaina, last 1.5 years, it has posed a remarkably different challenge to healthcare institutions, diagnostics and test centers also included. So it's been a paradigm shift from what it was previously to what it is now. Now, as an entrepreneur, what are the challenges you faced while adapting to the stringent statutory guidelines? Because this is a completely new area, and how did you overcome those challenges, and what is it that you planned as a growth mechanism for your organization?
I would like to thank Priya and CII for giving me this opportunity. Yes, indeed, the last 1.5 years have been challenging for the healthcare industry. The major challenge we faced was convincing the staff and their family members to come to work in April 2020 when we were hit by this pandemic. Even when the staff wanted to, their family members were scared of getting them back home after working in an infected environment. We had to call every family member individually and reassure them that their safety and medical will be taken care of. With no transport available, it was really very difficult for us to get them here to the center. This pandemic has increased patient awareness to another level. Patients want to be tested and at the same time were scared of letting the collectors in their house. They would make the collectors wait outside the house.
Shashwat Mukherjee, can you please go on mute? Please continue.
They would make their collectors wait outside their house, make them collect samples in the garages or some place where they would feel we don't want these people to come in. They would not want they thought that a collector coming in would bring infection. This 1.5 years has made us realize that better patient experience is very, very important. From booking appointments to getting records, taking tests, and ease of payment of medical bills, patients want each and every service to be hassle-free. A streamlined patient experience is the need of the moment. Patient anxiety and restlessness made them call every 10 minutes. You won't believe it. Most of us felt that we were a mini call center ourselves with the number of phone calls we were attending to. ICMR is a household word now. The labs in India were not geared up to handle this volume of testing. With COVID-19, the government protocol have been stringent. There were many a times when the reports were ready from the lab, and yet we could not give the reports to the patients as the uploading of the results on the portal were mandatory. We did have a lot of surprise visits by the authorities, and which did bog us down a little bit because of the paperwork and all those issues. But I guess these statutory guidelines helped all of India to maintain a standard format in testing and reporting. We realigned our business by having an all-integrated software, upgrading infrastructure, increasing waiting areas, and use of as much as disposable items as we could to maintain COVID protocols. Thank you.
Sunaina, it's amazing how the entire healthcare industry geared up and served the masses. A big, big thanks to you and your team for the tireless service. And hats off, guys.
Thank you.
Moving on to to the next question and the most awaited question for the evening. And this is my last question before I ask our esteemed audience to give in their questions. We have many aspiring entrepreneurs amongst us. What is that one thing which is a game changer for an entrepreneur?
So the one thing that has been a game changer for me is finding opportunity idea out of adversity. Pulse didn't have a PCR lab when in April 2020 when we were hit by COVID-19. And while we were setting up one, we were the first ones to start home collection of COVID-19 samples. We had tied up with another lab and started outsourcing the samples. We did face a lot of opposition, but didn't give up. Be mentally prepared for the worst and hope for the best. हिम्मत करने वालों की हार नहीं होती, लहरों से डर के नैया पार नहीं होती. Thank you.
Just amazing, Sunaina. Very inspirational. Okay, now it was wonderful to hear from all our member entrepreneurs, their story of growth and expansion. even in a difficult time as now. As they say, you know, nothing succeeds like success. And I wish all of them success in their endeavor. Now, moving on to audience questions. The first one that I have is for Smita Bajoria. The question is from Brinda. Can Surite help us book tests or get hospital admission?
Yes, Brinda. Thank you, Smita. Yes, Brinda. We have tied up with almost all the large pathological and radiological centers in Calcutta, including the large hospital who do OPD work like Bellevue. They all have OPD. So yes, to answer your question, yes, there's a diversity of tests, and you can definitely book the more common tests to the far more very tests which are not so common. So we can help you to book tests either at the center if you want to go, or if you want a home collection and it's possible, we can arrange for the home collection. So you get you get a geographical basis of where you want to go or where you want the technician to come from. So to answer your question, yes. We also have helped hospital admission of patients during COVID, which was the most critical period, and we have been very successful. And to answer that question, yes, we have tied up with about 60 large hospitals all over Calcutta, and the tie-ups are going on. We plan to take this pan-India because of the TPA. We have a connection with about 9,000 hospitals. So yes, all in Calcutta also we can help you to get admission with a hospital. We can also give you a comparative list of doctors in that particular hospital, or you can choose. So I hope that answers your question. So if there's anything more, please let me know.
My next question, in fact, this question is from Indrila. Indrila to Ritika. Do you do professional photo shoots? How are you managing professional shoots in times of pandemic? Ritika, this is for you. I think she isn't there.
Ritika is on mute. Ritika is on mute.
Yeah, she's on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, hi. Sorry. So yeah, the answer to your question is that yeah, we do professional shoots, and I have a studio set up also. But in this pandemic, we are not operating the studio. We are just doing outdoor shoots, events, marriages, and in case somebody wants a portrait or something done, that also has to be outdoor. So the team is vaccinated, and they're taking all the precautions and doing the weddings and the other shoots basically.
Thanks, Ritika. Sunaina, a tough one for you.
Yes.
I have an audience asking that, can I get vaccine at your diagnostic and test center?
Yes, we have Covishield, we have Covaxin. You can just walk in and get vaccinated.
So that was it from my end. Handing it over to Anuradha.
Thank you, Smita, and I would request Yanjini to, sort of formally wrap up this session.
Thank you, and thank you all the panelists of the session. We missed Pallavi, of course, but
yes. Pallavi is down with fever, actually. She was, when I called up, she was in a very bad state. She could not even speak. So she has asked, to apologize. She has asked for an apology that she could not join.
No worries. We have had a very, very stimulating session. In the participants, we have a lot of young to-be entrepreneurs. So I think they have taken a lot of energy from all of you. That's of course, like continuing from last session, even in this session, we just have this networking part, which all of us have to take back. And done right, networking lets women identify role models, find mentors, sponsors, and their business opportunities. I think all the women entrepreneurs here will agree with what I have to say in this. Thank you so much, and a very happy birthday, Paramita. Are you there?
Yes, she's there. I think we have the birthday party pending, Chiranjani. If it
Yes,
was
yes,
physical
we
event,
have
we
the
would
birthday
have had
party
an after
pending.
party.
Yes, Paramita is already our member, and out of the audience, I would request all of you to become IWN members, and so we can have a lot more parties and a lot more sessions like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sriranjani. And I would like to thank our sponsors also, Centriax Technologies, Chemtex, and Indian Oil for supporting us for the session. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Thank you. It was an awesome session. Lot of learning from it. Thank you once again, all of you. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.